and then they enter into 10th grade. Well, they decide they want to get a job and work in the hospitality industry. So they take our CTE Hospitality Course 1 and continue with the blended learning program, the hybrid, where they're doing a lot of their work at home, which allows them to get a job during the day. And they complete 10th grade, move into 11th grade, continue with blended learning, and enter into Hospitality Course 2, again, part of the CTE course sequence. They go into 12th grade, they graduate from the blended learning program, they graduate with a high school diploma, a resume, an elevator pitch, a 6-year plan, hospitality skills, and they can enter Miracosta College's hospitality program to further their education in that industry, or pick up management and business skills if they want to open a restaurant or hotel or whatever they want to do, or they can enter the workforce, completely up to them. Next slide, please. So a really exciting component of this plan development process was surveying the students for their preference of name and mascot for our school. You can imagine the excitement that spurred amongst our student population. So after multiple surveys, much discussion, we landed on the name Surfside Educational Academy with an acronym of SCA and the mascot of a shark. And you can see a few of the student submitted designs for the mascot on the screen. However, Dr. Vitale and Mr. Jennings have committed to helping us produce a professionally designed logo to represent our mascot. We're super excited about the name and acronym of this school because the actual sea or ocean supports a vast array of living diversity that thrives in a shared watery world encompassing a whole array of ecosystems. It's a perfect metaphor for our school's culture, which serves a diverse community through a multitude of learning options. Sharks are designed for perpetual movement. They must keep moving or they cease to exist. Another beautiful metaphor for lifelong learning, which we intend to instill in our students. These representations are an excellent reflection of our vision and mission statements as well. Our C, if you will include the Surfside High for direct instruction and the Surfside Academy for blended learning. Our names are connected and our programs are diverse to match the needs of students, and they also align with the CDE program requirements for each of those programs. Next slide, please. In closing, beginning in the summer of 2019, the DITMAR team set out to accomplish the task of creating a transformational school to meet the diverse needs of our students in Oceanside. Throughout the school year, DITMAR staff and students engaged in vigorous collaboration, rigorous investigation, and a team-driven process resulting in a proposal for this unique school. This proposal was forged from the input of students and staff, as well as the needs identified by site, district, and state data. We're excited and grateful to have had the opportunity to present this model to you, and we're confident that a school based on this design will serve the needs of our students well into the future. It's been my absolute privilege and honor to work side by side with my team and the community to create this plan for this amazing school. Thank you very much for your time and looking at this proposal with us. And now we would like to open for Q&A.
I kind of still have a comment. I'm still concerned about the focus on hospitality when, again, it's a low-paying industry overall. And I didn't really hear or get the flavor that of high expectations and rigor. I know you talk about a vigorous collaboration, but in terms of students leaving the school, going into the workforce, will they be able to buy a house? And if so, how soon? Will they be able just to maintain a quality standard of living for Oceanside, let alone other cities in Southern California? Go ahead.
No, those are great. Those are really good points. And every intention is to ensure that our kids graduate with productive options for their post-secondary experience. So all of our courses are A through G aligned, meaning that when they complete those courses, they are qualified to attend a 4-year university, just like any other school. So the rigor of the content is the same at your traditional high school as it is at ours. So they're not losing anything rigor-wise or academically by attending our school, they're gaining. So they not only have access to A through G courses, just like everywhere else, they also have access to certain career paths that are unavailable in other areas. Again, our hospitality is one of many options that we could focus on.
Perhaps we could emphasize those other kinds of careers that are high paying and may one has to go to trade school or be an apprentice, like being a welder, which is a huge demand for the high vac industry, which is a tremendous demand for basically industry construction. I think, we want to sell this program. We want to sell Oceanside. And we just cannot keep promoting these I don't know. I don't know what to say in terms of what I heard tonight. It does make me want to jump up and down and say, yay, this is going to be a phenomenal program, when all I see is hospitality and knowing what the employment's like. I think we really need to look at some of the more glamorous, some of the more, for want of a better word, sexy kinds of careers than just quote unquote hospitality. In fact, I wouldn't even have it on the PowerPoint.
Eric, what I'd like you to do is, can you talk a little bit more about TCI?
More careers out there.
I'm sorry. Eric, can you talk a little bit more about TCI and the collaboration with that school as part of MiraCosta and the various programs that they have and what their entire mission is and how we're really building a program that feeds into that?
You bet.
As with construction and hospitality?
You betcha. Yeah, and Miss Evans, you're speaking my language. When I was in high school, I graduated with a welding certificate as well as a certificate of automotive repair. I'm a hands-on person. I know what it means to work in that industry. I was also a fishing boat captain for 11 years. So, man, you're speaking my language. I love what you're saying, and I have the span of work across the board in terms of white-collar and blue-collar jobs. So I love that you're saying those things. Relative to what Dr. Vitale is saying, one of our partners is the Technical Career Institute through MiraCosta College. They have this amazing program where they offer 20 different options for kids who are leaving high school. It is a post-secondary option, but these courses range from veterinary medicine to engineering to robotics to drones, underwater and airborne drones, to welding, like you said, welding, various kinds of medical engineering. They have 20 different things. The beautiful thing about it is that the Technical Career Institute courses are 4 to 6 months long. Their job placement is like 95%. And the jobs that they place students in after 4 or 5 months start at $20 an hour and only go up from there as they earn additional certifications. So we've partnered with them to provide not only hospitality and construction, those are just the two we have on site, but we also have a menu of 20 other options available for our students, which we're fully prepared to prepare them for and guide them towards if they so choose. So I hear you about hospitality. There are students who gravitate towards that because, gosh, there are a lot of kids who want to own a restaurant someday. And not everybody's built to do that, but there are some. Again, 30% of the jobs in the state, or more than that actually, are in the hospitality industry. And they're not all low-paying jobs, but certainly we're not shifting all kids down that route. So, and I don't want you to worry just about the hospitality part. I want you to look at the big program. Gosh, this program we put together is based on Ed Code. It's based on research. We've read several books, looked at articles, visited schools. This school is designed to mold to the fitting of each kid. It's a personally designed program to meet the needs of students where they're at. So I hope, we can work with hospitality, but that's not the main drive. That's just one little tiny component of it.
Wow, Eric, thank you for being so thorough, you and your team.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now I hear the enthusiasm in your voice when you talked about the ladder and all the other opportunities. Thank you.
You're welcome. No, it's my pleasure. You started speaking to my heart a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing. And we're going to move on through the agenda. We're now on item 7. We have 4 action items there on personnel. So we'll start with 7A, the proposed reopener by the California School Employees Association. And it's Chapter 370 to negotiate with the Oceanside Unified School District in 2020-2021. It's you, Todd.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to do the mute. I apologize.
7A, Todd.
Yeah, this is the reopener. Sorry, I lost my words there. It's the sunshine proposal from CSEA, so that we can go ahead and get started with our negotiations. So we had brought ours to the board last month, as you recall. So this is the CSE's opener for negotiations for the 2020-21 school year.
Thanks, Todd. Do we have any questions for staff, board members?
No.
No.
All right, and we have no public input for this item. Any further discussion?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Excellent. We have a first and a second, so I'm going to call for a vote. I'm going to read your names off again. Raquel Alvarez,
Yes.
Eric Joyce,
Aye.
Eleanor Evans,
Yes. And again, I do want to say congratulations on the collaboration.
all right, and Mike Blessing,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So that passes 5-0. We're going to move on to 7B, the Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators 2020-2021. Todd, do you want to explain this?
Yes, this is an annual item, but it does require specific board approval by the state California Commission on Teaching Credentialing. This is just a required estimate for potential permit waivers that the district may need for covering employees that are working to clear credentials. So again, it's just an estimate. There's no penalty for going under or over it. And we typically only need these in the areas of CLAD certification, bilingual, single subject, and SPED. We typically have qualified candidates in multiple subject. So if you look on there, you can see the assigned permit requests are 10 for single subject and 5 for special education.
All right, do we have any questions for staff?
Nope. Nope. Move to approve.
Second.
Great. All right, so I'll call for the vote again. Raquel Alvarez,
Aye.
Eric Joyce,
Aye.
Eleanor Evans,
Yes.
Mike Blessing,
Yes.
and Stacy Begin, yes. Carries 5-0. We're moving on to 7C, the revised class specification, after school program supervisor.
Right, HR continues to do its work on updating job descriptions. This is a classified position. The title previously was after school program supervisor, which is a little misleading because there are before school as well. So it's renamed extended school day liaison. And then it's just updated, as you can see, strike through and additions are highlighted.
Any questions or discussion, board members?
No.
Nope. Nope. Thank you. Move to approve.
We have a first and a second. Great. I'll call for the vote. Raquel Alvarez,
Aye.
Eric Joyce,
Aye.
Eleanor Evans,
Yes.
Mike Blessing,
Aye.
and I myself. Motion carries 5-0. We're moving to the last item, 7D, revised class specification, purchasing manager.
We have an opening in this position, so we're using this time to update the job description for the purchasing manager so that we can post it and fly it as an updated classification.
Do we have any questions or discussion?
Nope.
No, I'll make a motion.
Get a first, get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Eleanor. So we'll move, I'll call for the vote. Raquel Alvarez?
Aye.
Eric Joyce?
Aye.
Eleanor Evans?
Aye.
Mike Blessing?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So that one carries 5-0. Now we're moving, thank you, Todd. Now we're moving to 8, curriculum and instruction. We have 2 items. The first one is A, approval of license agreement with Apex Learning. We hear from staff.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Begin. When we have been moving towards our distance learning program, we acted quickly to identify Apex Learning as an A through G approved provider of interactive courses for our high school students and also for our students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. This contract allows us to have instructional portions that are available for students to supplement the work that's being done by their teachers and to provide a distance learning platform. It also includes a 12 online professional development sessions for teachers to help again support them in their development of distance learning and to provide A through G aligned courses for our students.
Thanks. Do we have any questions for staff?
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Thanks. I'll call for the votes. Raquel Alvarez,
Aye.
Eric Joyce,
Aye.
Eleanor Evans,
Aye.
Mike Blessing,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Motion carries 5-0. So item 8B, approval of ethnic studies curriculum.
Yes, good evening, board. We're very excited to bring forward tonight at the direction and vision of the board and our superintendent in ethics studies curriculum. This curriculum has been developed in partnership with our community members, our teachers and staff to highlight the contributions of the diverse people in Oceanside Unified School District and highlight the areas that we still need improvement in our community. We're bringing it to you this evening as we do want to make sure that it will be approved for UC credit with A through G approval rating, and that will be happening so that we can start this course in the fall. And this was a wide section of stakeholders, both community members, 2 board members participated in this adoption, and this work was led by Dr. Richard Lawrence over the last year. And this has been a collaborative inquiry process and one that we're really very excited to bring the outline tonight forward. And then more work will be continuing with the specific curriculum into summer.
Thanks, Dr. Levy. Any questions or any board discussion you want to share your experience?
No questions from me. Sounds great.
I'm really excited about this program. First of all, it's coming from the community, it's grassroots, and many groups of people within our own Oceanside community are definitely not in the textbooks, the contributions they've made. And this is the opportunity to learn about that. And as we learn about other groups of people, we end up appreciating our own culture. And as I said, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to seeing it implemented. And we are so far ahead of other districts in terms of this. And actually, quite frankly, we're kind of ahead of the state, okay, based on the information I'm getting for the Inquiry Qualification Committee.
Thank you.
I was really thrilled to be able to work on this committee to some degree when I could, and the work that they put forward was tremendous. Making sure that all of our students can see themselves in our world and see the way that they can be empowered to make change within their own community and then at the greater community at large. It's fantastic. Do we still have work to do to work through the curriculum this summer and getting it out to more community groups?
Yes, Mr. Joyce, that is one of our plans. Tonight's board action will allow us to submit the outline, which is the basically the standards and objectives for the course that will be aligned to the UC system. And then by July, we'll be able to bring curriculum back to the board so you'll be able to see the curriculum. And as this is a living document and as we learn more and as we grow, we want to make sure it continuously evolves and reflects the community as it is today. So that's really exciting and a great opportunity that we have to continuously look at the curriculum and have it reflect the contributions of our local community and of our state.
Thanks. So with that discussion and questions, do I have a motion to approve?
I so move that we approve.
I would love to second.
Excellent. I will call for the vote. Raquel Alvarez.
Aye.
Eric Joyce.
Aye.
Eleanor Evans.
Aye.
Mike Blessing.
Aye.
Myself. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Moving right on, we're checking through this agenda tonight. Nice work in Zoom land. I like this.
Yes.
So we are on number 10A. This is special education. It's the approval of the master contract for residential treatment center for 2019-2020. Staff want to share some info?
Yes, good evening, board. As you may recall, in the springtime, we have many contracts that come forward that help us to make sure that we can provide the least restrictive and appropriate education for each student. And so sometimes within our school district, our offer of free and appropriate public education cannot be met regionally or within our own district. So we prepare a contract with other providers who can provide that FAPE to our students. And this is approving that contract for this year.
Yeah.
I move to
Second.
Great. With no more discussion, we'll call for a vote. Raquel Alvarez.
Aye.
Eric Joyce. Eleanor Evans.
Aye.
Mike Blessing.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Dr. Levy. So now we're moving on to item 11, business. We have 3 items. And let's see, and we have one public comment on 11B, which we'll take at the end. So let's start out with 11A, approval of annual commission installment premium to Keenan and Associates for supplemental employee retirement plan, SERP. So staff presentation.
Yes, trustees, this item is to approve the annual commission to support our 2017-18 employee retirement plan that was previously offered. This payment is for year 3 of 5.
Have any questions?
Don't have any.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Excellent. All right, I'll call for the vote. Raquel Alvarez.
Yes.
Eric Joyce.
Aye.
Eleanor Evans.
Aye.
Mike Blessing.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries 5-0. We're moving on to 11B. This is a presentation and approval of the 3rd interim financial report for 2019-20 and approval of resolution number 23, 2019-20, authorizing adjustments to the 2019-2020 adopted budget. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Soto for the presentation.
Thank you, trustees. Thank you, Mr. Moon, for the presentation. Good evening, President Blessing, Superintendent Vitale, and esteemed board. Tonight, staff will be presenting the required 3rd interim financial report. And before we begin the presentation, I want to just take a minute and introduce Mr. Tim Golden, our Director of Fiscal Services, is presenting information and available for questions as well. Next slide, please. So let's begin this evening discussing what staff will be reporting. As you may recall, 3rd interim provides a summary of changes from February 1st through April 30th. Changes to revenue, expenditures, ending fund balance, as well as an updated multi-year projection will be presented. Since we're in a qualified status, a fiscal stabilization plan must be included. Lastly, we'll be concluding with next steps and provide some information as we begin planning for the adopted budget development next month. Next slide, please. Okay, well, we'll catch up. As mentioned, we are in a qualified status, meaning that we may not be able to meet our financial obligations in the third year out. So that would be 2021-22. And our status was certified and approved by the County Office of Education. At this time, I'd like to welcome Tim Golden to continue with the next slide. Next slide, please.
Good evening, board and Dr. Vitale. As you know, hopefully by now, my name's Tim Golden, and I'll be going over some of the details of the third interim presentation. On the slide that you'll see here are the changes from each reporting period, particularly the second interim changes to third interim changes, which are outlined in that far right column there. There's been a slight increase in revenue and a decrease in expenditures, and that's going to result in a higher ending fund balance, as well as the reduction in that expenditures is going to lower our required reserve amount. We'll break down some of the specifics of these changes on some upcoming slides, and I'll ask Greg to please go to the next slide. On this slide here, you should be able to see the changes to the revenue budget, and it's outlined here with LCFF. There were some changes as we submitted our P2 numbers, so a slight increase in LCFF revenue. Also, you will notice no change to federal revenue. State revenue, we received money for the COVID-19 LEA response funds, and those came to us in April. The local portion of the revenue changes resulted from increases in interest, some reimbursements, and some site donations. Next slide, please. The changes in the expenditures are largely due to vacancy savings, and you'll see that across the certificated, classified, and then also benefit categories there. We did increase supplies, the supply budget, and that is as a result to the COVID response funds that we received, the revenues. So as we have supplies that we need, PPE and other distance learning types of needs that have emerged, we're going to go ahead and increase the budget in those areas to address that. In services, you'll notice the increase here is primarily from special education contracts with our non-public agencies as well as our non-public schools. And these contracts are still in effect even during the distance learning period that we're going through right now. And the final item that's there is a capital outlay, and that is going to be a result of some roofing materials that we're looking to purchase. Next slide, please. The components of the ending fund balance, much like the slide that you saw earlier, this will show the changes from each reporting period for the components of the ending fund balance. There's a slight increase in our stores inventory and an increase to our facility maintenance assignments for some ongoing maintenance projects. And other than that, there really hasn't been much change across these line items. So I will ask for the next slide, please. And what we're going to go over here is basically the multi-year projection and discuss how it's affected our multi-year. So on this slide here, you'll see some of the assumptions that we have. We have the COLA in the current year, 1920, at 3.26%. In 2021, it is statutorily at 2.31%, but given all of the climate that we're in right now, it's been said that that could be reduced down to zero and even further into the negatives at a deficit. And then the third year out, we have a 0% projection, which was previously, before everything had happened, was a 2.71%, but we reduced that down to zero given the information that we're starting to receive from the state. We continue to project declining enrollment at 410 in each of the subsequent years, 2021 and then 21-22. with ADA at 94%. We are reducing any one-time expenditures from the budget so that they're not showing up in each of the out years. We have increases built in for health and welfare, as well as increases to the pension programs like STRS and PERS as those rates increase in each of those years for each of the subsequent years. Next slide, please. Here you will see the multi-year projection as of the third interim. And just as a reminder, this projection assumes that COLA is going to be at that 3.26%, the 2.31% for 2021, which is still subject to change, and then 0% for 21-22. And you'll notice there that we do in that third year show the additional expenditure reductions to maintain the 5% board reserve. And that is going to keep us in the qualified status. And a slight change, obviously, from the second interim report where it was closer to the 6 million range. And that's going to be primarily due to the changes when we zero out the COLA in that final year. Then that's going to result in a decent chunk of money that we lose in that third year out. Next slide, please. This slide will show the components of the ending fund balance for each year, assuming that COLA of 3.26%, 2.31, and 0, with a board reserve of 5%. And you'll just kind of see, it was outlined in some of the earlier slides, but this just is a representation of what those balances are here. So I'll give you a second just to take a peek at that. And next slide, please. So this is going to put us into a fiscal stabilization plan, as we've been before. And as Dr. Soto mentioned, we're still in qualified status, which will require us to provide this presentation. And she will be going ahead to continue with, oh wait, hold on a second. I lied. I still get one more. On this final piece here that I have to present, the revenue and expenditure adjustments, we're going to continue to evaluate the data as it comes in and analyze different scenarios with enrollment and information that we're receiving from the state that's rapidly changing each week. We will also review expenditures to identify possible budget solutions to see if there's areas where we can find some savings. And with that now, I'll transition in to Dr. Soto.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. And next slide, please. So board staff is recommending adoption of the third interim financial report, and we will continue to receive guidance and support from our County Office of Education. And as we prepare for the adopted budget for 2021, which will be starting to be presented in the month of June, we wanted to share some preliminary information we're receiving to assist with our planning and assumptions. So again, these are assumptions and these are not part of the budget at this time. Next slide, please. So FCMAT has been very proactive with guidance to districts in the state of California due to economic impacts from COVID-19. And FCMAT has encouraged districts to plan for multiple adopted budget scenarios, all of which includes a zero COLA, as Mr. Golden previously mentioned, and a negative funded COLA. So a negative COLA means that not only would we not receive our already assumed COLA, but that our apportionment per student from the LCFF would also be lowered. Hence, the negative COLA, in essence, hits us hard twice with the decline in revenue in two different revenue categories. So FCMAT is advising us to assume that we will not receive any one-time revenue. Next slide, please. So for a negative COLA, FCMAT is recommending anywhere from a -2 to a -10%, and possibly even higher of a negative COLA. And I know that there's been talk about anywhere from a 12% to a 15%. Again, these are all talks based upon what could happen with the economy. And there's multiple considerations. such as the state revenue reductions impacting the Prop 98 rainy day fund. Next slide, please. So revenues will be closely monitored and adjusted. OUSD is expecting to receive $3.1 million under the Federal CARES Act. However, we cannot show this as revenue until it's received. And as of yet, we have not received it. So that is a potential revenue that's supposed to be allocated to us. For Senate Bill 117, as Mr. Golden previously mentioned, we were awarded just under the $300,000, and we have received this and we have already spent most of it on expenses related to COVID-19 and distance learning support, such as APEX licensing, such as technology and PPE equipment. We know that our revenue received has already indicated a decrease in Oceanside due to COVID-19 in the areas of declined transportation revenue and facility use fees. Since we're not able to rent out our facilities, we are already experiencing decline in revenue. Next slide, please. So due to the decline in the state revenue, education communities in the state of California could experience a decline of upwards of $18.3 billion. That's a B with billions. For comparison to the Great Recession in 08-09, the decline was 7.4. So Department of Finance is asserting that the widespread economic interruption caused by the global pandemic is unprecedented in modern history. Next slide, please. As we eagerly await the May revise this week, we are being cautioned that all information may not be available, and we could expect additional information in what is tentatively being called an August revision. We do understand the economic impacts from COVID-19 will extend beyond 1 year. And while we understand that we will be bringing an adopted budget in June, we are under the assumption we will need to bring a revision as early as August, hopefully in September, so that it can mirror the unaudited actuals. However, we may not have that luxury given the information that's coming about. Next slide, please. So I asked Mr. Golden to take the recommendation from FCMAT and run a scenario of COLA for 1920 at a 3.26 COLA, for 2021 a negative 2% COLA, and as we talked about the negative 10 for 21-22, a negative 10% COLA. These would continue with the same assumptions of declining enrollment of 410 scholars and reducing staff to align with declining enrollment. Under this scenario, you'll notice next year, which begins July 1, it would indicate that we would be required to address a shortage of almost $3 million for the school year and almost $40 million for 21-22. That would assume a negative COLA. This would also assume the 5% reserve for economic uncertainty. Staff is only providing this as a projection based upon some very preliminary information, and we are not asking for board to act on this recommendation. Next slide, please. With that, staff is asking for approval of third interim with the COLA, as Mr. Golden stated, of 3.26 for 2019-20, for 2.31 for 2021, and zero COLA for 21-22, as referenced on slide 10. And with that, staff is available for any and all questions.
If there were to be more money coming in through another federal bill, would that money be allocated in the, assuming that it goes through the state to be allocated in the same way, will we expect to get proportional amounts compared to the first time around? So if they say that 13 billion went to schools the first time around, if that were to go up, if that were to double, will we expect our income from that to double as?
We hope so, Trustee Joyce. Typically, all allocations will follow the very first allocation of identification of how school districts will receive the per pupil allocation. We would assume that it would follow the same funding source, which is why things are very much in flux, which is why We are anticipating some very interesting numbers this week from the May revise. And the sooner the state is able to be engaged in more businesses, revenue will increase, and we will start to see less discussion about the negative COLA.
Do I have any more questions for staff?
I have a concern regarding slide 10. In my heart of hearts and my limited experience with economics, I just feel we're being very optimistic in terms of the numbers we're projecting. I really think, if we really, how bare bones can we get and still operate as a district? And that's a question that I know you really cannot answer, but I think it's something we really need to think about.
All right. Well, do you have public input on this item? Are we ready for them? All right.
Todd Madison.
Hi, thanks. So our budget's now certified qualified again. After finally getting a positive following years of being on the edge. We blew all that up in a few months before the COVID crisis began. The problem is not that LCFF funding is insufficient, as we just saw. LCFF revenue is up almost 7% per year since we passed Prop 30, 3 times of inflation. Revenue is up over $5,000 per ADA in that time. There are plenty of districts that are able to balance their budgets on similar revenue. The problem up to now was not revenue, the problem was spending. Now we see the bloodbath ahead, potentially 40 million in cuts by 21-22. I hope we don't go near that, that's for sure. Well, the coronavirus itself was not predictable. We have most certainly been expecting a downturn in the economy for a number of years. That's what our reserve for economic uncertainties is for, of course, not just to spend because we have it. No amount of financial responsibility could have anticipated that what we're going through now, but we'd be in far better position if we'd actually done that rather than blowing up our deficit just because we had it, which is, of course, what we did last December and earlier this year. Bonus raises all around, above and beyond the annual raises built into the schedules just because we had it. Not because we could show data that we were uncompetitive in our local market, not because we could show excessive turnover, not because we were losing good people for pay issues, no real reason except because we have it. And unfortunately, now we don't. I've stood at this podium many times suggesting we use the rising revenues to put the district in better financial shape to weather downturns. We didn't do that. This is not an I told you so. It's a demonstration of the fact that these things can be seen in advance. And now we see cuts are coming. We can see that in advance as well. Parents need to be able to count on the board to protect their kids' interests in this. Parents and their kids need to come first. Coming up with millions in cuts is going to require some pain, certainly. Let's make sure that as we evaluate ongoing expenditures for possible reductions and find budget solutions, we're all thinking of ways that pain can be minimized for our kids, first and foremost. Thanks.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Todd. So with this item, 11B, is there any more board discussion? No, none at this time. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the third interim.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Thanks. I'll call for the vote. Raquel Alvarez.
Yes.
Eric Joyce.
Yes.
Eleanor Evans.
Yes.
Mike Blessing.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Carries 5-0. Moving on to 11C, renewal of legal services agreement with Fagan, Friedman, and Fulfrost. Staff?
Trustees, this item is to approve the renewal of our annual agreement for legal services with Fagan, Friedman, and Fulfrost, also known as F3.
Do we have any questions? No questions, no discussion. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Second.
Thanks. All right, I'll call for the vote. Raquel Alvarez,
Yes.
Eric Joyce,
Aye.
Eleanor Evans,
Aye.
Mike Blessing,
Aye.
myself, aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, moving right along, we're now on item 12, policy development. 12A is the approval of the revised board policy 5142 on safety.
Yes, good evening, Board of Education. This policy reflects changes to state law and most importantly ensures that we are creating safety procedures and training our people on ensuring that our students are safe on school grounds and during school activities. And it also accounts for having the school IDs, the backside of them printed with hotlines for domestic violence and suicide prevention so that we are making sure that our scholars have access to that information in a very quick and immediate way.
Thanks. Do we have any questions for staff?
None for me.
Nope. I'll move to accept or approve the board policy.
Second.
Great, thanks. Well, I'll call for the vote. Raquel Alvarez?
Yes.
Eric Joyce?
Aye.
Eleanor Evans?
Yes.
Mike Blessing?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Now moving to 12B, which is the approval of another revised board policy 5141.21, administering medication and monitoring health conditions.
Yeah, so this board policy reflects changes to current law that ensures that physician prescribed medications can be administered to students either by themselves or by trained personnel on the site, and ensures that students and personnel are trained and that the administration of the medication is done in accordance to the physician's directions. It also disallows the use of medical marijuana on school grounds.
Any questions?
Ms. Evans, I think, are you asking a question?
Eleanor, you're muted. You need to We'll give it a second to see if she can get her question in.
Do I need to repeat it?
Yes. Do you have a question? Go ahead and
Yes,
repeat
please.
it.
Okay. My question is, if a student is able to medicate himself, self-medicate, will there be an adult there to supervise, or they're just on their own?
Yes, and specifically, Ms. Evans, this law and this board policy outlines two specific things: an asthmatic inhaler and an EpiPen. These two medications have been known to be very safe, and as most of our scholars are under constant supervision of adults, they would, of course, have an adult be with them, and that would only be in the case of older students who physicians feel that they can. Nurses also provide support to those adults who are with the students so that they know the appropriate use of those medications.
And again, would teachers be involved with this in any way? I know that was an issue prior to this bill, but
yes, Ms. Evans, this actually is a cleanup of that. Several years ago, there was the question about requiring the administration of medication by principals and or teachers, and that has since changed, and this is what it reflects, that parents can provide that medication, students and other trained personnel, but that it's not a requirement for certificated personnel to administer, but rather that they would be trained by the medical professionals. So it's a change to that law that you're remembering.
Thank you.
I have the issue about marijuana as a medicinal alternative medicine. we're saying it's not allowed in the schools. What if we have a physician who says the student or this employee or whomever absolutely has to have this? Does the student then leave campus, take the medication, and come back, or their parent takes them and then they come back, or what?
Yeah, we have not encountered that as at this time, but based on the fact that we do have federal funding and federal law disallows marijuana as a medicine, even though state law allows for it, that's why we are required to not administer it or have students administer it on site. So your suggestions are exactly along the lines. Should we come across that? I know our Student Services Department, under the direction of Dr. Sparks and the rest of the team, our nurses, would come up with a medical protocol that would allow for that, to make sure that any medical necessary treatments that students need are both provided to the student and also follow the state and federal law.
I've got a question here. I'm sure we didn't expect to get in the weeds along this, but does the I don't have much fear that the feds would be monitoring or chasing us on the use of medicinal marijuana by students, bona fide. But do we have any tallies of other school districts up and down the state, how they're falling down on this issue, this policy, this approach, banning it or not?
I don't know, but it's something I could look up and follow up with for the Friday letter. Maybe not this week, but next week.
Yeah, I'll support this tonight. I could see this changing over time, and I just would be more interested in us following how it's treated up and down the state in the coming year.
Thank you, Mr. Blessing.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the good questions. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. I'll call for the vote. Mike Blessing,
Aye.
Eleanor Evans,
Aye.
Raquel Alvarez,
Aye.
Eric Joyce,
Aye.
and myself. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Sorry, I had to switch it up a little bit. Sorry.
See, that lightens it up well. That's very good.
Just wanted to make sure you're paying attention. Just kidding.
Yeah,
Sorry.
look at that question. Just came up just off the board right there.
It was great. Nice work. Way to pay attention, guys. Good job. 12C, adopt resolution number 27, federal education funding in light of impacts associated with COVID-19 pandemic.
Who's talking on that?
Does anyone ever feel like they're in the Saturday Night Live stay-at-home sketch that they did a couple weeks ago? That's how I feel right now. Okay. This is an opportunity for the board to participate in heavy advocacy, as you generally do, and it's a resolution to continue funding and to advocate for federal funding amidst the COVID and not cuts. I think we have a couple of board members that want to speak to the importance of this item and advocacy and funding. Or if we're still in the skit, maybe nobody. That's okay.
Wait.
Okay.
I think several of us do want to talk to just give us time to push the button to speak. I think it's this resolution should not only just go to the state, it should go all the way to Washington, D.C. and to anyone who's above us in terms of running for office. Did you hear me? Okay. All righty. I know I've been to several presentations. We have got to get to be a lot more creative in terms of how we obtain funding for our schools. And we've got to hold accountable those officials that we've elected, whether they quote pro-school or not pro-school. They need to be aware that education is the foundation for our democracy. We should not always be, this ugly stepsister, who gets, the crumbs from the table. It's It's real important that this resolution go forth and that it go forth with the vigor of this board. I'm finished.
I would second that statement. I'm fully on board. California itself has lagged behind other states because of a lack of investment in their education. Our California, I'm talking about the state itself, it's teacher to student ratio, it's nurse to student ratio, it's all the ancillary, all the additional people that make a school community thrive. We have not invested in as a state, and partly is because we are lacking some of the federal funds, so we're asking for the federal government now to step in. But we, like you said, we have to call on all of our state leaders, all of our federal leaders, knock on every door, turn every stone over, because we cannot afford to step backwards when we are already not meeting the mark.
And in light of our third interim report, that was all doom and gloom. These cuts in public education on the horizon, it's just that there's no better time for the advocacy to start pushing the feds to properly fund public education, especially the rumor is fully funding special education is part of one of those CARES Act, number 4. So I know that the Certificated Oceanside Teachers Association has put something out to their members, as well as my 11 districts that I work with in North County, San Diego, to have their members reach out to their congressmen and women and try to get more funding for public education. So I hope we can continue to do that as a district, and this board policy is the first step. So with that, do I have a motion?
I'm sorry, we almost got there. One relevant piece of information that has come out today is that in the draft put forward by the House, we are completely missing the mark. It's at $60 billion for public education K-12, which doesn't meet the request by any advocacy organization out there. So the draft doesn't meet the mark, so we still have a lot of work to do. So this is more important than ever.
Thanks. So did I have a motion? Because we all spoke at once.
Yes. I'll make the motion.
I have a second from Raquel. Great. So with that, I'll call for the vote. Get ready, guys. Never know what order I'm going to go in. Eleanor Evans.
Aye.
Mike Blessing.
Aye.
Eric Joyce.
Aye.
Raquel Alvarez.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. So last but not least, my favorite part of the meeting, 13 is public comment on non-agenda items. And I've been told we have 2 public comments, and I'm so looking forward to these. So I'm going to turn it over to Anne.
Okay, our first person will be Courtney Peluso.
Hello, good evening. My name is Courtney Peluso. I am senior class president at El Camino High School. I am speaking on behalf of all seniors in OUSD. We want to thank the administration and all of the Oceanside Unified School District, as well as the school board, for your support and concern for our safety. I also want to thank my advisors, Ms. Gonzalez and Mr. Gerard, for their support during this time. We understand this is a hard time for everyone and that safety is a first priority. However, it is crucial that we honor the graduates during this historic moment in a historic way. During our most recent meeting at EC regarding graduation, Principal Frazier entertained the possibility of a diploma pickup drive-through, similar to what we have seen at high schools across the Inland Empire, who also have a graduating class of over 600. We think this is a wonderful idea. It follows safety guidelines, honors our class, and would give us a small piece of familiarity of a traditional graduation. In comparison, Mission Vista will be celebrating with a drive-through graduation, while schools such as Rancho Bernardo and Vista still plan to have their traditional graduation. Different traditions, but in the same district. Leaving our district families and seniors wondering what makes us unable to do so as well. We do not expect our typical ceremony, as what is happening worldwide is anything but typical. We know there would be many flaws in waiting out COVID-19 in order to attempt a traditional ceremony. Oceanside seniors propose a plan that follows social distancing and use of masks. With Oceanside High having the largest field in San Diego, they would want to use that to their advantage. They have done the logistics and mapped out a safe ceremony that would be similar to their traditional graduation, yet at their home location versus the beach. Families can live stream from their homes to ensure safety against the pandemic. We have worked 13 years to get to this point, for the dream to walk across the stage as we say goodbye to our home for the past 4 years. Some students won't have the opportunity to graduate ever again. We are also aware that both schools have different traditions, and we do not expect to have replicated ceremonies. We have united as a student community to strive for a greater honor in addition to our virtual presence. We ask that you please listen to our voice. We are only asking for a memory during this historic moment that is well deserved by the class of 2020. We appreciate the opportunity to save a piece of history with our virtual graduation ceremonies. We know that our classmates need closure and celebration on a job well done. We are immensely thankful that our administrations are trying to make it as normal as possible with the most impossible of situations. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Courtney.
Our next speaker is Sue Simpson.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As one of the many parents of the high school seniors here in Oceanside, we would like our elected officials to know we understand how the pandemic has altered education and forced a traditional education to pivot to be online and virtual in a matter of no time. The students and families have adapted quickly and appreciated the efforts of Oceanside Unified School District in the delivery on education and nutritional support for these families in need. However, we are sorely disappointed in what is being offered to the senior classes in lieu of the traditional pomp and circumstance that Oceanside has always provided their graduates in the past. I know students, faculty, staff, and families have offered up alternative celebrations, as was reflected in yesterday's letter, as well as the students speaking previously. In the letter yesterday from the high school principals, it stated that while there has been some interest in a drive-through graduation, we are not able to move forward with such an event due to the San Diego public health order. Well, now, last I looked, San Marcos was in the same county as Oceanside, and so is Mission Vista. And that makes me ask why a drive-through graduation, in addition to the virtual celebration, can happen for San Marcos seniors and Mission Vista seniors, but not Oceanside. The superintendent from San Marcos has informed their district that they'll be celebrating their class of 2020 graduates in two different ways, with the video commencement and the drive-through graduation. The drive-through graduation allows the graduates to wear their caps and gowns and walk across the stage, receive a diploma, take official pictures, and families can witness from their cars. This very important milestone. This simple approach gives opportunity to replicate some of the most cherished moments that graduation bestows while adhering to the state and county physical distancing requirements. It's exactly the same way Oceanside Unified did when they were distributing meals and Chromebooks to students, honoring public distancing. Help me to understand how that's different. I would be remiss not to mention that in the second letters that the seniors received and by what was said at the beginning of this meeting by the superintendent, that you are working with your student leaders, your teachers, your community leaders to create additional celebrations for our students. Please let us know what that is. The class of 2020 are the first babes that were born after 9/11. And now they are our newest citizens. They are young electorates emerging into a very different world than we have ever known before. They deserve more. Many parents are very willing to help and participate in planning and executing a deserving celebration following all the guidelines set forth. I'm happy to volunteer myself to assist in this effort. Thank you for your consideration, and I hope you will change the direction for our graduates. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Is that all our public comment? right, so we're moving on to 14, board staff discussion. Anybody like to share, speak?
No, well done. Meeting, way to go, Stacy.
Yeah, all right. Well, if we have no board discussion, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. I don't have a gavel. They didn't give me the gavel.
Just dang it.
Good grief. Anyways, yeah, we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you for the individuals online. We had almost 80 people at one point online. We do have another meeting scheduled for May 26th. This is a board study session on facilities, and that will be at 5 p.m. and you'll see something posted for that. And that will be done virtually as well at this point. So thank you for joining us. Have a nice night. Meeting adjourned.
Good job.